Hi class, I talked a little bit about CSS grids. I wanted to give you a quick Codepen tutorial here. Even though I know that some of you don't know much about the code yet, it's not too hard of a code. I think you can still kind of follow along with it. So quite often, a typical website has a header, a left sidebar, some right content, and a footer. And when we want to use it on the phone, it could jump into one column after a certain width of the screen. So with CSS Grid, it's really easy to build this. This is the HTML code here, and then the CSS style code is here. It is not all that long. So just gonna get rid of it and build it for you real quick. Maybe when you see it, you can follow in a Codepen or build it yourself. There are also really good tutorials from Westboss or on CSS Tricks website. There are a bunch of really good resources. So I start by making a div around everything, which will be the container for the grid. So I name this one grid, this class, and then fortunately, there's no spell check here, and stop. I need to close the div. So everything has an open and closing bracket, and these divs are just kind of containers where we put stuff in. And inside that entire grid here, I'd like to make a div with the class called header, and let's write the word header in there so we know. It doesn't have to be the same though, but here we'll always have to close the div so it showed up here. Our word header, it's wrapped around with this class called header. I'm just going to copy paste 1, 2, 3, 4. The this one was called side. So I named the, wait, do we name it side or left? Whatever you want. And then here's the right. One more right. And the footer is called, well, we'll write the name footer inside here. So they all push each other to the next line because they are block elements and they're not inline, so they don't, because each div makes it a block element, so they don't go one next to the other. We'll change that in a bit too. So this is basically the only HTML that we need here for the structure. And you can see there is a default 10 pixel border around every website. Usually I get rid of this in the first step. The body of the HTML page has a margin of, let's say, 0. And if I could spell it right. So yeah, it went away. Now my first class was the grid. I wanted to display as a grid, and I wanted to be 2 columns, so I can say the grid template columns, and the first column, let's just randomly make this 2 pixels wide, and the rest is a fraction. So I'll show you later why that is really cool. But now you can see there's a 200 pixel, and then the rest of it is the 1 fraction of space. Right now it's not very big grid, not very big container because there's no content in it. But I wanted to span over the whole entire page, so I give it a height of 100 of the view height. That's actually a measurement I can use. And now it would stretch the whole thing. And for the next step, I'd like to give all these classes like at least like a color so I can see the header. Let's see background color, say light blue. Okay, yeah, there it is, shows up. So we also have the left, copy paste that, and we got the right, and we got the footer part. You can write in hex colors too, or RGB values or things like that, but just think it's kind of easier for now. Let's say make this yellow. So there are a few words you can use, like even more abstract ones. One of my favorite ones is this tomato. So now it's just four. They all follow this rule of going in 2 columns. I like to give each of these classes just a name, and I'll show you why that is kind of good in a while. So this grid area would be called header. Copy. This would be called what was it? Left. This would be called right. As you can see below, I'm kind of confusing the grid for a second because it doesn't know where to put these names, because I still have to call them inside the grid here. I'd like to call them grid template areas, and with these names I can kind of just visually arrange them in rows. So the header will span over 2 of those rows, and the left and right will be in the middle, and the footer and footer will be on the bottom. And all I did was write them in quotes onto each line, and because I gave them names and the area names down here, I can just write it out really simple.